All right, everybody. Let's talk today about compensating AEs. How much should you pay your salespeople at an agency? That's a tough question. A lot of people actually reach out to me about this. I've gotten emails about this. Not necessarily the simplest answer, and there's many ways to do it. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things I've heard. There's some people who pay people off the initial average order value. There's people who pay off of the ongoing value. In other words, like every month you have the account, you get commission on the account. There's people, and that depends how you set up your sales org, right? So I think a good caveat here is if you have a new biz team and then a existing business team, those can have different compensation plans and different organizations. Okay, so I'm really referring to how do you pay a new business team right now. I think you got to think about what you want to motivate. So for me, I want to motivate them closing the right types of accounts. How do I control how my sales org closes the right type of accounts? I set minimums on pricing, and I work with finance to do that. By setting minimums, it kind of controls your sales org. And I know it sounds silly, but you got to set a minimum if you're selling retainers or value-based systems. And you want to constantly be pushing that till your close rate drops under 30% and above 15%. So you're trying to hover in this 15% to 30% close rate. If you find your team closing above 30% on new business, raise your rates and just keep doing that. But remember, every time you raise your rates, you got to raise your value. So that means you might have to double down on your positioning. You might have to differentiate. In other words, like at Directive, we talk about customer generation. It's our own viewpoint on the world. I have a very simple saying. People will pay more for different. They won't pay more for better. So something just to think about. It's hard to charge more just because you're better. We work harder, we try harder, we have better results. Now, if you say you're different, okay, the world sees it this way, but here's what we believe. People will pay more for that, okay? So just a little note. So that's kind of point number one. You got to use minimums to kind of control your sales org and align them to sell the right types of accounts, number one. Number two, you might want to set industry parameters, okay? It's very hard if you have a sales org that closes e-commerce and then B2B and then some D2C and then some lead gen, and you're kind of like all over the place with your industries. It's not all the same. I know the world, we like to think that, SEO is the same, paid media is the same, RevOps is the same. It's not. And to charge higher minimums, you have to have higher specialization. It's really kind of goes hand in hand, okay? So if you want to raise your rates, once again, focus your industries. Really, really helps. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to keep motivating your sales team to get more. So if you compensate your new business team on ongoing commissions, they can get kind of fat and happy. We like to pay everybody out up front. I found it works better to pay people out up front for the contracted revenue. What does that mean? Well, you want your sales team to have better terms. Okay, so point number two, how do you get your sales team to close deals with better terms? Well, to do that, they need to have the right motivation. It's very simple, right? Salespeople are motivated by money. If they get paid on ongoing commissions and now they have this big fat portfolio that just keeps growing, they are less motivated to keep hunting for you. However, if they just get paid up front, they get their money, they eat their money, they want more, they get hungry again. It's just kind of how it is. So for us, and then you still want them to have good terms. So how do you get your team to close bigger deals, want more, and have better terms? You have to compensate them on the terms they get in the contract. In other words, if you have a team that keeps getting contracts with 30-day out clauses, 60-day out clauses in the ongoing, then you can just compensate them for the 60 days of guaranteed revenue. Okay, so you get X percent of the first 60 days of revenue, or you get Y percent of the first 30 days of revenue. You would be amazed at how good your sales org will get at stop selling contracts with ongoing out clauses. Okay, so you have to tie compensation to the terms you want, and then you can drive that motivation. And then lastly, how do you do your payouts? I would encourage you to try to do quarterly payouts. Monthly payouts, what you'll find, especially if you base it off of contracted revenue, if your AEs close a 12-month contract, but you pay it all out in the first 30 days, you're going to have a cash deficit. In other words, the value of the contract will be greater than the net profit margin from the first month's work, and you're going to actually find yourself growing but not able to stay ahead of it with your labor supply. And you're going to run into this kind of diminishing marginal returns on your growth rate because you can't keep up. Those are just some things to think about with compensating AEs. I can dive way deeper in future videos on each of these kind of topics, but those are some things to think about. Hopefully that helps. If you have any ideas, disagree, I mean, look, I'm open. If I can figure out a better way to do it, let me know. Hell yeah. So leave a comment. We can chat below. And as always, please subscribe so I can keep doing these. Thanks, everybody.